Hello and welcome to Film Companion South. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Srikanth Adala's Narappa, which stars Venkatesh and Priyamani. The film is an adaptation of Vetrimaran's Asuran, which in turn was adapted from Poomani's Tamil novel Vekkai. Venkatesh plays Narappa. At first, we see him as a very weak man, someone who will do anything, even sacrifice his own self respect in order to keep him and his family out of trouble. Now, one of the sources of trouble is the 3 acres of land that he has. A local big shot wants his land, and then he refuses to give the land. Narappa refuses to give the land, and then there is the killing, and then there is the revenge killing, and then all hell breaks loose. So, this is a story of haves and have nots, but it also is a story with lots of familiar genre toppings. This is a chase story, this is a revenge story, and this is also the story with the big fat hero transformation block, a whistle inducing hero transformation block right at the intermission point. But within this broadly generic material, there are specifics, and this is what really makes the story. Yes, the main story is about Narappa's son killing a man, and then the family has to go into hiding. But then the story actually begins in an earlier generation with a man who just wants to make a pair of slippers so that his girlfriend, the girl he's going to marry, can walk in comfort. In other words, all this violence that spans one generation and then goes into another generation begins with an act of love. This is such a sadly beautiful touch. Now, Srikanth Adala amps up the emotional moments, otherwise, this is a faithful adaptation of Asuran. In fact, I would call it a too faithful adaptation. The color scheme looks the same, the costumes look the same, G.V. Prakash's trumpet player, the very famous trumpet player, is retained. Now, if you remember the scene in Asuran where the family decides to pack up and leave their house, the whole event, that whole sequence is captured in a single take. That sequence here in Narappa 2 is captured in a single take. In other words, the aesthetics are very similar. But even if you've seen Asuran, Narappa works because the core is so powerful. Now take the wife, played by a very effective Priyamani. Now she wishes that it was not her son who took revenge, but her husband, that is the Narappa character. As for her sons, that is her and Narappa's sons, they view their father with borderline contempt, in the sense that they are like, why is he such a weak man? They wonder, why won't he fight back? In other words, despite his best efforts, the bloodlust that was originally inside Narappa has been passed on to the next generation. In other words, it's not nurture, it's nature. And this is a theme that runs throughout the film. The screenwriting is cyclical. What happens in one generation finds an echo in the next generation. In the younger Narappa's time, it was forbidden for members of his caste and class to wear slippers. But the older Narappa, that is in the present day, is able to casually buy a pair of slippers for his own son. Even the violence is cyclical. Take the scene where the family dog dies. Now the younger son is distraught, he's really upset, and his mother tells him that it's okay, they still have another dog. And the boy asks her, well, what if one of your two sons dies? Will you just say it's okay because the other son is still alive? This single line defines his younger son's character through the rest of the movie. And note even how the older son has his own peculiar notions of macho-ness and revenge. He has been beaten up by the cops who have been instigated by the big shot that is behind all this. And the older son says, well, I beat up his son. What kind of father is he if he doesn't return the favor? Venkatesh really holds the film together. As he's older than Dhanush, his world-weary look is really convincing, and he tweaks his image to very good effect. And thanks to him and of course the rest of the cast and Vetrimaran's story and screenplay, we get a rare beast in Telugu cinema, an action-driven character drama, or we could call it a character-driven action movie. Films like Kshatriya Putru have already asked this question: when will the cycle of escalating violence stop? But then, for all their strengths, they were glossier products, and they were products of their era. With Narappa, you feel a sharper whiplash. When I reviewed Asuran, I said that it was not up to Vetrimaran's and Dhanush's earlier work, but it was still quite good. I'm going to tweak that a little and say that Narappa is not quite up to Asuran, but on its own terms, it is pretty good. So that's it about Narappa. If you like this video, do subscribe to Film Companion South, and see you soon at the movies.